Hello and welcome back to Pine City Apiary. Today we're going to be doing the 5 questions interview, and this time we're going to be doing it with OkieRob. Now OkieRob is from Oklahoma. He has bees. He's got his garden and a lot of other things going on at his place as well. So let's get it started with OkieRob. Okay, Rob, with the onset of CCD, which is, the colony collapse disorder, there's been a large amount of people coming into the beekeeping hobby, and a lot of beekeepers like myself who have returned to it. Has CCD has it had any impact on your apiary? And how long have you been a beekeeper for?
Oh, everybody. Hopefully there ain't a lot of wind noise here. I know there's some noise out here, but hopefully it won't be so bad. Kind of looking in the monitor there, and I can see a little bit. Sorry. Paul Otis, I'm not sure how you say your name. He's asked me a couple of times to do this collaboration, and I've done it. I actually have. But it was terrible. It was terrible. Anyway, this is about the 4th attempt at making this video. Alright, I've got 5 questions here. Well, some of them's multiple part questions. So anyway, with the onset of CCD, colony collapse disorder, there's been a big influx of people starting to keep bees, or people that return to keeping bees. Okay. What's the question? I'm going to skip to the second part of this question. Has CCD had any impact on your apiary? No, not that I'm aware of, but then I'm not a master beekeeper. I'm just a hobby beekeeper. And then I'm going to jump back to the other question here. It says, how long have you been a beekeeper? Well, 5 years. I started with 2 packages in the spring of 2014. So in the 5 years I've been keeping bees, I haven't seen anything that I could associate with the CCD. Now, I don't. I'm going to add a little bit to that. Back when my grandpa, back in the early 80s, he kept bees, and that was before the varroa mites and probably the tracheal mites and other things associated with the bee decline. And of course I was a teenager back then. I wasn't interested in bees, so I didn't really pay a lot of attention to them. I was more interested in hunting and fishing and things like that. But I don't know what happened to his bees. I think I was in the Navy overseas when he stopped keeping bees, and I just never asked him, after that. But he never got back into keeping bees. I don't know if it was associated with the cost of replacing them or what, but he never did have any more bees, and I really never thought about it until 2014. I had a lot of problems with my arms and hands and things like that due to some work-related issues and things like that. So I started thinking about another source of income and trying to diversify my property here. So anyway, we'll get back to the question.
Rob, what have you found the most enjoyable about keeping bees?
I don't know, really. In the heat of the summer, it's hard to think about anything enjoyable, but probably when you make a split and you watch that hive grow and expand into a good established colony. That's probably the most enjoyable part. And getting honey, from your bees, that's enjoyable also, but that's not a guarantee. Especially here in Oklahoma, the weather fluctuates so rapidly. It's hard to tell if you're going to have a good flow or not. So honey is not a guarantee. If you're getting into beekeeping for the honey, you might be disappointed for a while.
Okay, fair enough. What do you find that you dislike the most about keeping bees?
And the second part of that question is, what do I find that I dislike about beekeeping? I'm going to jump on that bandwagon with Jerome Bee Farm. The heat, it's brutal. And if you have some grumpy bees, wearing a suit of some type is kind of mandatory unless you like getting stung a lot. And I don't like getting stung a lot. I don't like getting stung, period. But I can take a few stings, but that's probably the most thing I dislike about beekeeping is the heat of the summer. And you really have to monitor your bees through the heat of the summer for overcrowding, for starvation, for robbing. I mean, there's multiple things you have to deal with through the heat of the summer. So that's probably the least enjoyable part of beekeeping.
Rob, what challenges are you facing documenting your journey with your bees on YouTube?
It's not just YouTube. I find challenges documenting anything. I keep lousy records, but documenting it on YouTube, I don't really have a set schedule of what I'm trying to accomplish with my videos on bees on YouTube. If I feel like taking the camera up there and shooting some footage of what I'm doing and hope it comes out, that's basically what I'm doing. It's hard to get the right angle. It's hard to keep the noise. It's just very hard to get a good quality bee video for me. Like I said, I'm not a professional anything, especially not a YouTube star.
Have you found a way to overcome these challenges?
How do I try to overcome these challenges? I really don't. I don't try at all. I'll move the camera, try it in a different spot. But other than that, that's about it. I really don't try that hard.
Do you feel that this plan has been successful?
You tell me. Personally, no, I don't see it as a success. It is what it is. I would like them to be better. I'd like to have better videos, better camera, better images, but when it's 100 degrees and you're up there sweating, all you can think about is getting out of that hive. It's not about the quality of that video. So, no, I don't really consider it a success.
All right, this next question, like I said in Darren Jerome's interview and a couple others as well, is probably my most favorite question. And that one is, what has surprised you the most about keeping bees?
A couple of things. I kind of associate them with fire ants. Everybody I run into, and we start talking about honeybees, and they get a little interest in them. I kind of associate them with fire ants. They sting, and they multiply. That's one thing about bees that's kind of a constant here, anyway, is they do multiply, they expand, and comes the second part, the expense. The expense of the expansion of your bee yard. Whether you're you're building your own beehives, you know, or ordering them pre-assembled or unassembled or whatever, you know, there's a certain expense associated with any of it. You know, how much is your time worth compared to buying one already assembled? You know, that's personal choice, but there is an expense either way you go. And if you're trying to expand, you know, you're going to incur more expenses. A lot of people save money by going foundationless and just letting the bees draw their own foundation. There's even some that build their own frames and try to save cost that way. My time is one factor. You know, I have quite a bit of time, but at the same time, it's not just bees that I have to spread my time around with. You know, I do my gardening. You know, I have canning. I have to mow the yard. I have to take care of cattle, chickens, and dogs, and you know, there's multiple things to take care of. Muscadine vines, it's just blueberry bushes, fruit trees. You know, I have to spread my time around to all of these where it needs it the most. You know, when it needs it the most. So anyway, let's get back to the questions. I can ramble on. Get sidetracked pretty easy.
All right, the last question, Rob. If you could start over, what would you do different?
And honestly, I don't know. I'm kind of on the same fence with Darren Jerome again with the layout of my bee yard. I started with 2 hives, you know, and that was a small area, and then, you know, things grew from there. You know, from 2 hives to 4 hives, 4 hives to 12 hives, 12 hives to 25. You know, it kind of expanded before I was ready, so I wasn't prepared to lay out my yard when I should have been thinking about that, because I wasn't really expecting to have this many hives. So I didn't lay it out to be user friendly to a degree, and like Darren, I probably need to think about protection in the future. We do have bears in Oklahoma, but I don't have a steady population in my area. There's the occasional one that travels through, maybe looking for a new territory or something, but they're not what I would consider permanent into this area. So one of these days I may have a massive bee attack in my yard from one that's traveling through, and I need to think about preparing for that. And you can move hives and things like that, but you know, I need to find the right spot. Now, my bee yard is in full sun, which is kind of helps with the hive beetle population. You know, trying to keep their numbers down and things like that. But it's not user friendly. You know, it doesn't matter what time of the day I go up there. There's no shade unless it's, you know, at daylight, and I get a little bit of shade in the morning. But after that, it's just full-blown sun, and it's unbearably hot. So I would like to have them in an area where I might have some evening shade, just for my comfort. I don't think it really hurts the bees to be in the full sun. They can regulate the temperature fairly efficiently. So that would be the one thing I might change. I don't know that I would change the size of my equipment. I originally started with the 8-frame mediums, which worked really well for me. I didn't have a lot of trouble with wax moths and unprotected space in the hive, simply because the bees wasn't using that area. So the 8-frame was beneficial in that aspect, but it does take more boxes to get the same volume as, say, 2 deeps for a brood area. So there's more expense with buying more frames. You know, we're 2 deeps, and my 8-frame equipment would have 16 frames. You know, I would need 3 medium hives with 24 frames, so that there is a different price point as far as running all 8-frame mediums. So, and I don't know that I'll change that. I've added some deeps to some of the hives, and I don't know if that's a good thing or not yet. With the all 8-frame mediums, I was able to manipulate the hives easier. I could take honey frames or brood frames and move wherever I wanted, you know, to different hives or whatever. So I don't know how these deeps are going to work for me on that aspect. It's, you know, I'm just starting with deeps, so I don't have any drawn comb or foundation to move around, so they have to draw everything out. So that's, you know, that's one of the hurdles when you're just starting beekeeping, is getting some extra frames of drawn comb to use in your apiary. Anyway, I hope it's been informative for you, and thank Paul again, and thanks for being patient with me. Like I've said, I've got multiple things going on around here at the same time, and it can be kind of difficult to take time out of your day to do things like this. But thank you once again. We'll catch y'all later.
I'd like to thank Rob for taking the time to answer these questions and work with this collaboration with me. I know he's very busy, and I appreciate the time he took to do this with me. I would hope also that if you see this video, that you would go to OkieRob's page, his channel, and check him out too. You might find a lot of things. He does a lot, like I said, a lot of beekeeping. He does a lot of canning. He does a lot of gardening, and very, very informative. So thanks again, Rob, for spending this time with me, and thank you for watching. If you liked the video, please give us a thumbs up. I really do appreciate that. If you haven't yet subscribed, please click down below where it says subscribe, and then there's a little bell next to that. Click that bell. You'll get a notification whenever I upload a video. So again, thank you very much. Have a great day.